Didn't know real estate agent was a thing. I'm working my 2 jobs. I work at a fast food place. I work at Dunkin' Donuts. And I'm at drive-thru at both of them. And this guy pulls up in a cool car at one of the jobs.
Yeah.
And I'm like, hey man, that's a cool car. What do you do? Whatever. Just small talk. And he's like, I'm a real estate agent. Didn't really know what it was. Next day, I go to my next job at a different shift. That same guy pulls up and he sees me there as well.
Yeah.
Like I'd worked those jobs for a long time, had never seen him. And eventually he was like, hey man, you look like you work a lot and like you have a good personality to you. You should think about becoming a real estate agent. He leaves. I remember that same day I looked up real estate school near me.
And I am really, really excited for the guest that I have here today. Really with this show, we always try to inspire you guys with our stories, with the stories of the guests that we have on the show. Talking about somebody that has inspired me personally, is this man right here. He's a fellow realtor. We share the same office. Great friend of mine as well. He has a great, incredible story. And, we're really just going to jump right into it. So one of the unique things about Salah and we actually started real estate around the same time. Like I said, we have very, very different stories, and we'll get into that. So like I said, we started real estate around the same time.
Yeah.
I'm in a different situation. I'm just off of football. I got 3 kids,
right.
Married. I'm starting with my wife. Then, Allison's our broker, by the way. She's like, there's this nice young guy over here. And he's just so great. She's so great. This is how Allison talks, by the way.
Yeah, she always puts the pressure on.
Yeah, and she's so great. And I was like, I met him. Like, she's like, by the way, he's 18. I was like, what? That just blew my mind. So that being said, you were 18 years old when you jumped into real estate. Like, let's talk about what was that like going from Haverhill, Massachusetts, correct?
Yep.
So going from high school to real estate, what was going through your mind? Like, what was? Play that back for me.
For sure. Yeah. So first of all, thanks for having me. It's
Yeah,
an
absolutely.
honor. Very cool.
Yeah.
And so when I graduated high school, I had no idea that I was going to be a real estate agent.
Yeah.
I at the time of graduating, I didn't even know a real estate agent was a thing. I was working really hard. Like in my mind, I wanted to succeed. I was working a lot of jobs, working a lot of hours with the thought of, all right, I'm going to make as much money and save as much money and eventually maybe buy a house down the road, whatever. Mm-hmm. But anything that I could do to expedite that process, I was totally up for it. And this looked like, okay, a cool opportunity.
Working hard wasn't the issue.
No.
Yeah, it was just like maybe you could choose a different form of employment.
How can I work hard where I can get a bigger reward instead of what it was?
Absolutely. So do you remember who this guy was?
Yeah, he's still an agent. He's at Remax in Andover, Mass.
Oh, nice. Yeah. Shout out whatever his name is, man.
Paul Analora.
Hey, Paul, man, we gotta get you on the show, bro, because you're the reason why I met this guy over here.
Yeah.
All right. So, whatever. He got you going down this track. Like, what was it like, training or, getting in? Like, how'd you end up at KW?
Yeah. So I failed my test probably 4 or 5 times. And the whole time, I'm finishing my shift.
Laugh, by the way.
Yeah, no, it's funny when you look back at it.
Yeah.
I finished my shift. I go straight to work. You got to do 40 hours of classes. I'm doing that. I finished it. Got to go pass the test. Keep failing. Whatever. I passed my mass test after a month or 2 of taking it. I knew one other agent. This lady became an agent that I knew, and she worked at Keller Williams here in Salem.
Gotcha.
And when I got my license, she was like, "You got to come meet my broker, Allison. It's a great place."
Yeah.
I go meet Allison. It's amazing. She goes, "In order to work here, you got to get your New Hampshire license." And I just finished failing my test 4 times, just passed, and I was like, "Crap!" But I was like, "This is a cool place. I want to be here."
Yeah.
So then I go pass my New Hampshire license, become an agent here, and man, it was really challenging at first, for sure. I'm 18, I got a clean baby face. As soon as people see me in a real estate setting, their first question always, "How old are you?"
Yeah.
Whether it's a client or another agent.
Yeah.
So that was an obstacle at first to get people to trust me, and I'll go to clients' houses and they have kids who are in their 30s and 40s. And here's me, an 18-year-old, coming to help them either buy a huge investment or sell the largest investment. It took a lot of trial and error for sure in the beginning.
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit more about that. Yeah. 18, and people buying and selling real estate. Typically they're not even around your age, or a little bit older, or even way older at that point. Talk about some of those challenges that you went through, and you eventually obviously got the confidence, but talk about that a little bit.
Right. So starting out, I would cold call people.
Yeah.
I call people on the phone, and I'd say, "Hey, I'm Salah, Keller Williams. You have a home. Do you want to sell it?" Et cetera, et cetera. And eventually, they so many calls. Someone says, "Yes, come on over, see my house."
Yeah.
I go and I show up, and then, on the phone, you don't know who you're talking to. But then I show up, this young kid. Immediately, there was always an awkwardness every time I met somebody. Of like, do you even know what you're doing? And, I did all the classes. I learned. I had good mentorship at Keller Williams, and I knew how to handle myself, and I knew how to sell people's houses and how to do the business. So after a period of time, one person says yes. You go to another person. Hey, I just helped this person sell their house. That person says yes. Now you have 2 or 3 people that said yes to you. You go to someone else. Yeah, I know I'm young, but I just helped these 3, 4 people in the last month or so. So it just became a domino effect of like keeping at it and like keep on the effort of learning and growing the business. Eventually, like, after year 1, I'd done a sufficient amount of business, made everything going forward a lot easier. Where it's like,
so like with each transaction, you're building that confidence and like, you're able to communicate that, each time. And really, that's what it comes down to at the end of the day, because we're in a communication business. Exactly. As long as you could communicate your value, communicate, what you're talking about, and communicate how you're going to be able to help them through this transaction, that's all that matters at the end of the day.
Exactly.
Yeah.
There's that cool saying, nobody cares how much you know until they know how much you care.
Yeah.
And like when you communicate with them, like, hey, I'm here for this one job of getting you to where you want to be. Yeah. That's all I care about. Yeah. They don't really care how young you are or whatever the case might be. They're just like, okay, this person's on my side. Yeah. And I feel confident.
Exactly. And sometimes in this industry, you could tell some of the people who care more about the commission than the client.
Right.
And that's what we need to get back into as a whole industry is like, guys, at the end of the day, it's always about the client, because we take care of the client, rest comes.
Exactly.
And, as long as, you communicate that effectively, obviously, the sky's the limit with that. So, year 1, you knocked that out the books. Let's talk about, I know you're not want to get into the numbers and, and all that stuff. I'm
fine with anything, yeah.
But, so, let's just put it at this. Me and Kristen, our first year, so we're new. See Salah, he's young, he's new, but I'm like, immediately, I'm talking to this kid. I'm like, this kid knows what he's talking about. Yeah. Like immediately, he probably started a few months before we did.
Right.
So I'm just like, all right, I'm on the hotline because really, for anyone listening, like, there's so many variables in real estate, and sometimes even with all the training you could do, some situations don't come up until you're in it. They really don't come up until you're in it. So I'll be like, yo, Salah, like, what's going on? This is happening right now, blah, blah, blah. Yeah. And I was like, I'm 28 years old. Calling an 18-year-old, but like I said, this man knows his stuff.
Yeah.
And all the time, I was just like, hey, I'm like, I felt like I was bothering you.
Never.
But that was never, you always like kind of like, you're great. Like, there's always good time. It's like, you always said, I always got time for you.
Yeah.
That's what I appreciated because, we kind of talked about another episode, but like, I'm like, I got a big struggle going. I'm like, I got 5 people in my house. I got to feed my family. Yeah. I'm trying to figure out what I'm doing.
Yeah.
So, like I said, man, I appreciate, you still to this day, but like really where you were at in that first year when we're figuring out this new like portion of our life. Right. Like, you were like straight up there, like, boom, hey, I got you. This is how you do this. This is how you do that. Especially when it came to like the Massachusetts stuff. I was like, man, this is completely different than New Hampshire. So, man, like I said, I appreciate you.
I was stoked for that because we have a wonderful office, wonderful group of people. Our age ranges are real different, right? And they'll say it themselves. It's a little bit of an older office. Yeah. So when you guys joined, I was like, oh my God, like here's some cool people closer to my age range. And like if there was ever like a party setting where we're having a gathering, here's some people I could gravitate towards and like, be comfortable. So I was stoked. And like you and Kristen both have such a hold to you guys, so charismatic, and you communicate well, and you're super friendly. You almost come off as like larger than life. But then when you talk to either one of you, super sweet and super just genuine. So it was cool right off the bat. Like I think everyone wanted to see you guys do well, and I was happy that I even got to talk to you guys.
Yeah, that just reminded me of we did. So me and Kristen, we've been doing like gave back to the community for a long time. So we just started this office, and we invited the whole office out to one
Cornhole.
of our Well, no, it was actually that year was we were at the Holiday Inn. It might have been the next year.
Gotcha.
And I remember I was like, so it was a year in. I'm like, we're handing out like champagne to everyone. I'm like, Salah's now 19 at this point. I'm like, hey man, I've got some soda for you. Hey, we're almost there. Yeah. So no, that was funny. So let's talk about growing up in Haverhill, Mass. Like,
for sure.
What was that like? Who were some of your influences? Obviously I know real estate kind of came later, but you talked about that mindset, like that hustle mindset. That's ingrained in you. Like where do you think that comes from?
So yeah, I was so my mom and dad and my brother were all born in Morocco, raised in Morocco. My brother's 3 years older than I am. My mom and dad came here in 1998. with my brother from Morocco. I was born a year after. Right when I was born, my mom and dad.
That's crazy.
Yeah, my mom and dad separated right after. Dad went and started his own life. So it was just me, my mom, and my brother growing up. Yeah. And my mom barely spoke English. I had no grandparents here, no aunts, no uncles.
Gotcha.
So it was like the dynamic was me, mom, and bro. And growing up, dude, we just I saw my mom work real hard.
Yeah.
Like all the time. And when you're a foreign person that doesn't speak the language, you work your tail off, you raise your kids. You always have this fear of being taken advantage of.
Yeah.
So you just do what you do to get by and support, she did what she did to get by and support us, her kids. So seeing that from a young age, like she worked at a pizza shop, and like me and my brother would sit at that pizza shop from like kindergarten to like 4th grade. We get out of school, we go sit there and watch her work until she finished her shift, and then we go back home.
Yeah.
So like I just saw hard work all the time. But at a very young age, I was just like, man, I want to get to a point where I could do well and support her and like make her feel like everything that she did was worth it.
Yeah.
So that was really like this day. Like if I ever have a bad day or a bad month or whatever, I think back to that and it gives me the inspiration, motivation that I need to like keep it going. Yeah, so that was the biggest thing for me, and it just became my identity. Like all I want to do, I enjoy work. Like if I'm not working, I don't know what to do. Yeah. Like people always say, Salah, you gotta take a vacation. There probably should be a better balance. Yeah. But at the same time, like if I'm not, I don't feel like I'm progressing. I feel weird. Like it's become just I like to do.
Yeah, 100%. Like you know when you're putting in the effort, everything's gonna align the way it's supposed to.
Exactly.
And so you almost kind of feel like if I'm not putting in effort, then like
something's off.
Yeah, it's a weird spot. So I mean, let's transition to that. So like I said, Salah is a beast. We're talking about top 10%, top in New England, top in our office, year after year, just consistency. Like that's what I see out of you is consistency because kind of like you talked about, work hard. That's a no-brainer. So when it comes to real estate, I mean, there's a million different ways, to go about it. Everyone's approach is a little bit differently. I know I've came to you a couple times just because I speaking to your consistency, like you're so good on the phone. And I remember you were saying because I'm young, it's like nobody knows me. Right. And like me and Kristen, we're a little bit older, we have a following. I mean, I play football, so people know who I am. Right. So if I give them a call, they're like, oh, they might be able to recognize my name. Mm-hmm. You, literally 18, 19 years old.
What's your name again?
So, going into that approach, because there's a bunch of different ways you could do real estate. So your approach to real estate, how did you get into that? Like what was the process behind that?
So when I started and I was new, there was one guy at our office who I just copied him. And he was a machine on the phone. He would, every morning when I would go in there, he was dialing for hours, schedule appointments. He'd leave, go on those appointments, sign listings, come back the next day. And that was every single day my first year I see this guy do it. Yeah. So I was like, I wanna copy that. And that was my approach. Like I get on the phone, I call a bunch of people, hang up, a bunch of people be like, don't ever call me again. I have a weird name. Salah is not a common name. I forget sometimes, like when I say my name to somebody, Salah, that it's not in my mind, it's everyone knows.
Dude's my name.
Yeah,
bro.
And then it's like, what? So yeah, there was it was a lot of challenges, a lot of people hanging up. But again, like I said before, you call so many, someone says yes. And then you meet so many people, someone says yes. So it just became like this, dude, like the moment I would wake up to like the moment I'd go to bed, I'd just be like, dude, I just need to have someone say yes to me for an appointment or let me sell their house. Yeah. And then over a month, 3 months, 6 months, a bunch of people said yes. Yeah. But it was a lot of work. Yeah. But eventually things just started to click and become a domino effect. Yeah. And then built the business off that mentality of just like, I'm just gonna keep calling until somebody says yes to me.
You're putting in, that effort that we talked about because sometimes as real estate agents, just like some people don't even know how to lead gen. Right. I mean, lead gen is probably the most important part of our job.
Yeah. It's our biggest job, yeah.
I mean, you got to generate leads because, I mean, the service part, of real estate, you should, by the training and all the other things, you should be at least halfway decent at that and you'd be able to help people find their home or sell their home. Or
get through the process.
Or do a proper CMA, with certain approaches. Actually getting the lead is by far the most difficult part of the job. Exactly. So you're able to, I'm not going to wait for somebody to come to me. You know,
Right.
sometimes I think, you know, industry, we're like,
Someone's gonna call.
hopefully someone calls. Like, I put out my one sign, I did my one post, hopefully someone calls. And it's just like, it does work, but you almost don't even control
Right.
where that goes. You kind of ride the roller coaster with that. But like your approach to real estate, it's like, I'm putting this effort, I'm making the calls.
Right.
And I know after X amount of calls, there's gonna be X amount of business that comes along with it.
Right.
So, you know, that, I mean, like, it's a, you know, fantastic approach. And, you know, really for, like I said, there's so many different ways to do real estate. You know, you got to really be able to blend a lot of these styles, because sometimes, you know, calling might be the best thing, or, you know, the social media might be the best thing, or running events. But, you know, if you're getting a spot to where, you know, you definitely want to be a master at something.
Right.
You know, like that's what you're good at. Me and Kristen, we're really good once we're in front of people. So we're like, how do we get in front of people? You know, so we do events, and, you know, we do, you know, things on social media. But, you know, doing that is what drives us.
Yeah.
But also, there's also things we get better at, because, like, hey, you know, in between sometimes, like, hey, you put in a few more calls, or I seen you over there on social media.
Yeah.
I remember you saying, you're like, oh, I don't know. I'm like, hey, everything you do post, I will say, was it Ronnie Fine Homes?
Yeah.
It is very, very professional.
I appreciate it.
And I love that about you.
Yeah.
Do you do it yourself?
I do it myself, yeah.
Yeah.
And I will say, like, I'm not that good at social media. I will say you and Kristen are probably, for real estate agents who get business on social media, probably the best at it, because you guys display your personality so well.
Yeah.
And it seems like it's effortless, but it comes off so good.
Yeah.
So you guys are really good at that. And like, whenever you do anything else to plug in more business is always a good thing. I've never been able to get good at the social media thing. Like, I'm, for the most part, relatively quiet, and like I'm like shy to a degrry. I've always
Which
been
is
like,
crazy, because you're on the phone all day.
yeah, because but here's the thing, on the phone, I have nothing to be shy about. If someone's like, hey man, screw you, don't call me again, I don't even know that they exist. They don't know that I exist. Move on to the next one.
Click and move on.
I start getting shy when I'm driving to their house, and I'm like, I get a little nervous. But yeah, no, that's why, yeah, different personalities fit things better or differently.
Yeah.
My personality fit well with calling, going to meet someone at their house, and then like going from there.
Go through that process.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, so that's just every agent finds their thing that fits them best.
And that's the cool part about the industry is
Exactly.
there's so many different ways to do it. Whatever your process is,
You got to do it.
you got to master it. You got to dominate at that. And, you know, like I said, some people, mailers. Well, if you're going to do mailers, you got to send out those mailers. Like, if you're going to call, you got to call. If you're going to do the social media thing, you really got to do it.
Exactly.
And you can have success in every single one of those ways. But really, at the end of the day, whatever your method is, you got to go all in on it.